Chapter 6 Jane. A little girl with brown hair and green eyes stared at Margot and Morgan from afar. That day when they were at the mall. "That's your father and sister Jane. Look at how happy they are. She is said to be a genius. If you stand next to her, everyone will say how much better she is." Jane and her aunt returned from the mall without buying anything. As Jane walked away from the lovely father and daughter scene, she couldn't help but felt jealous of Margot's shopping bags. When they arrived home, she went straight up to her room on the third floor. The room was small, with one attic window. If it weren't for her aunt's grip on her earlier, she would have run to Morgan. After Laura's death, Morgan went wild and went after the Judahs businesses. He showed no mercy even to his dead brother's company. The Judahs went abroad, taking Celine's daughter Jane with them. They kept a low profile after returning to the country. Morgan's business has grown exponentially. His daughter Margot has been given the title of Princess Stone due to Morgan's business empire, while his second daughter remained in the dark. As time passed, Jane tried hard to get into Whitehall. In one of the entrances exam Margot and her locked eyes as she was passing by. Her grades were good, but she failed on the IQ test. "I'll work hard, if you let me attend," Jane said to the teacher. "I'm sorry, but you were just not suited to study here, but with your grades, you can get into Ace Academy." "What's that?" Jane asked. "It's the second best school in terms of academic achievements." "I know that Ace Academy is an elite school, but it's too expensive," her aunt said. She knew the school well. It's where she and her sister went to. If her family hadn't fallen from grace, she would be sending her daughters there. Upon leaving the school, Jane saw a young wealthy boy. "I'm sorry, Mrs. Smith, your son Henry is amazing, but he is just not up to par with the students we already have within his age. I'm afraid if we accept your son, he might not be able to keep up with the other kids." "Are these kids Margot Stone and Louise Ross?" the administrator then said. "No, madam, those two are in a separate class." Mrs. Smith grabbed Henry and walked away. Within 2 years, Whitehall had become the first school in the country with a high academic achievement. The school grouped students not by age, but in academic strength, categorized by classes. For example, if a 10-year-old tests at a high school level which is in Class B, then he or she would be placed in the same class with other students in the school with the same academic level. Upon hearing that Jane will be attending Ace Academy, her cousins yelled, "Mom, how come Jane gets to go to your old school? You said we can't afford it." Her aunt then said, "Jane has been given a scholarship." Jane stared at the table, unable to touch her meal. On the drive home, her aunt said to her, "Don't think this is something you can brag about to your cousins. Remember, if it weren't for your mother's antics, we would still be living lavishly. And your cousins would have been able to enroll in Ace Academy since day one." Her cousins, jealous that Jane gets to attend one of the country's prestigious schools, made sure that Jane looked poor as she can be when the school year starts. When the new school year starts, Jane and Henry were enrolled in Ace Academy. Ace Academy was mainly known for being the school of the elites. However, unlike Whitehall, it prioritized wealth and making connections. Henry's friends ran over to him. "Henry, look over there. There's a poor girl. How do you think she got in here? The school wants to raise its academic standards. She must have gotten a scholarship from the school," Henry said. "Ace Academy is now being infiltrated by cockroaches." Henry then said, "You have to have a good grades to get in here without money." 9 years later, the day Jane stepped foot in Ace Academy, her life became a living hell. She was bullied repeatedly. Despite being from a reputable family, Jane couldn't brag about her name, either it be Judahs or Stone, for fear of Morgan's wrath. She used her uncle's surname Hunt. Although Jane can't imagine her father being so heartless when she saw him with her sister at the mall. Jane vowed that if she meets him again, she would tell him that she is his daughter. Ever since entering the academy, she has been hearing a lot of things about her sister Margot from her classmates. They were all acquainted with Margot. She found out from them what Margot's Instagram was. Margot was worshipped by her classmates, boys and girls alike. A student then asked, "Henry, are you going to attend Margot's birthday party? I heard it's going to be a modern princess themed." "Idiot. Of course he will be there. He never misses a chance to see his crush." Upon hearing the word crush, Jane frowned. Henry was the only one in their year who treated her nicely. After class, she walked over to him. "Henry, are you going to that party the others were talking about?" "It's a given. My friends and family will be there. Can I come with?" Henry stared at her. He has taken her with him to attend parties before, but not one where Margot was attending. Furthermore, this was her birthday party. It would be hard to get anyone in without an invitation. "Come on, I can be your date for the evening," she said. "I'll see what I can do. But I make no promises," Henry said as he walked away. Jane waved her hand as she smiled at him. That night she scrolled through Margot's social media. "Your life must be great. You can have anything you want, but not for long. I will take everything from you. And make father regret having chosen you and your mother," she said as she put her phone away. "Growing up, I was always compared to my sister, whom I only ever seen from afar. My whole family blames my mother for every misfortune that they came into contact with. And I, being her daughter, naturally took the blame after her death, since there is no use blaming the dead. Of course, I blame her too. She got in bed with a bastard, and made me into one. If only she had listened to grandfather and aunt, and didn't broke of her engagement with father, I would be the princess of the stones." I can't fathom what she was thinking. She could have kept some dignity by keeping her shenanigans to herself, but she openly supported that bastard. When things went south, she had no one to blame but herself. After my mother died, I was passed from relative to relative. I was nearly sent to an orphanage before my aunt and uncle took pity on me. That was until they had children of their own. In their house, I'm more like a maid than a family member. Even though they were well off. Everything I was given was either second-hand or a hand-me-down. My room was in the attic bedroom in the 3rd floor, where there was little to no insulation. I do all the chores in the house that I feel like Cinderella. I ran into my father and sister once from far away. Margot was dressed in luxury clothes and had a lot shopping bags brought for her by our father. She is living the life of a princess while I have to beg for my cousin's old clothes. When I was 7, I found out what school my half-sister was in. For the first time, I begged my aunt to let me attend Whitehall, saying that if I pass, they won't have to pay a single penny for my schooling. During the enrollment process, I tested great, but not good enough to enroll. They said if they compare me to kids my own age, I would be very smart, but if they compared me to a genius like Margot, then I would be considered a bad student by Whitehall standards. After the test, I saw a glimpse of my sister. Luckily, I got a scholarship to attend Ace Academy free of charge. However, I had to pay a high price. Since getting accepted, my cousins had tormented me at home by making me do their homework. Once I tried to tell on them. They retaliated by ripping my bag, books, and notes. I was laughed at and labeled poor by my wealthy classmates, since Ace Academy placed more emphasis on wealth than academic achievement. However, as I grew up, the boys gradually began to stand up for me. However, when I tried to show my gratitude, they would then turn around, then they would humiliate me in front of other students. Henry was the only one who had been kind to me since the beginning and treated me nicely. But then I found out that he has a crush on my sister, even though they were just mere acquaintances. Our classmates would say that Henry only enjoys events if my sister Margot is there. If not for him being rejected by Whitehall, he would be dating Margot by now. Even from far away, she irritates me. Once father finds out about me, I can then take what is rightfully mine. Like this story, comment, and subscribe to be notified when the next chapter comes out.